Imagine standing on the edge of the Jordan River, a river that once stood as an impossible barrier between the people of Israel and the Promised Land. The waters have just stopped flowing. God's people have crossed over on dry ground, exactly as He promised. But as the riverbed is exposed, something remarkable happens. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. As we reflect on this moment at the Jordan River, I invite you to listen not just with your mind, but with your heart. God gives Joshua a command. Take 12 stones. Joshua 4:3. Stones from the very place where the priests stood and where God's presence held the waters back. These stones were not random. They were chosen intentionally, lifted from holy ground, and carried forward as a memorial for future generations, a lasting reminder of God's faithfulness and covenant love. But what is the significance of these stones? What do they teach us about God's covenant? How do they speak not only to Israel, but to us today? And how do they ultimately point us to Jesus Christ? In Joshua 4:1-7, after the entire nation crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Take 12 men from the people, one from each tribe, and command them to take 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you, and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight." Joshua 4:2-4. Each stone represented one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Together, they formed a testimony. God was faithful. God made a way. These stones were not decorative, they were declarative. They told a story. This moment echoes an earlier image from Exodus 28:29, where God commanded the high priest, Aaron, to wear a breastplate with 12 stones, one for each tribe, over his heart as he entered the presence of the Lord. Just as the high priest carried the tribes before God, these stones carried the memory of God's faithfulness before the people. Both sets of stones speak the same message. God remembers His people. God holds His covenant close. God's love is intentional, personal, and enduring. This covenant love is beautifully captured in Song of Solomon 8-6. Love is strong as death. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. God's love for Israel was not fragile or temporary. It was fierce, unbreakable, and unwavering. The stones taken from the Jordan became tangible witnesses of that love. Every time Israel saw them, they were reminded, the God who brought us through will never abandon us. And that same love still carries us through the impossible places in our own lives today. God gives a clear reason for the memorial in Joshua 4:6-7. When your children ask in time to come, "What do these stones mean to you?" then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. So these stones shall be a memorial forever. These stones were designed to provoke questions, and those questions were meant to spark faith. This wasn't just about remembering the past, it was about passing down testimony. God wanted future generations to know who He is, what He has done, and that He can be trusted. God cares deeply about the faith of the next generation. This same burden appears in the Psalms, where the psalmist longs for God's faithfulness to be proclaimed beyond his own lifetime. Faith was never meant to stop with one generation. It is meant to be told, retold, and lived out. Just as Israel used stones to teach their children, we are called to leave markers of faith, stories, testimonies, and lives that point others to God's deliverance. Ultimately, these stones point us forward to Jesus. In John 13:1 we read, "Having loved His own who were in the world, He loved them to the end." Jesus is the fullest expression of God's covenant love. The stones memorialized God's faithfulness in the Jordan. The cross memorializes God's faithfulness forever. Through His life, death, and resurrection, Jesus became the living testimony that God keeps His promises. The 12 stones at the Jordan are more than historical markers. They are symbols of faith, love, and legacy. They remind us that God is faithful, His love is unbreakable, and His covenant endures. As we journey through life, may we remember our own memorial stones, the moments where God made a way when there was none. And may we faithfully pass those stories on, ensuring that future generations know the power, grace, and unfailing love of the Lord. Just as God led Israel into the Promised Land, He leads us into the fullness of His promises through Jesus Christ. And as we continue through the rest of Joshua chapter 4, we'll discover that God's faithfulness doesn't end at the miracle. It shapes the life that follows. I look forward to continuing this journey with you in the next video.